Everyone, and thank you for joining us. This is Inside Wofford Golf, brought to you by the South Carolina Election Commission. I'm Wyatt Street, joined by head men's golf coach here at Wofford College, Todd Eckstein. Todd, as always, thanks for your time.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for doing this.
And as we're nearing the conclusion of the full season, conclusion of the spring slate, let's start with the spring slate as a whole. Just how would you kind of assess or summarize how the spring has gone for you guys?
Yeah, I think the spring could be characterized by a number of different things that have gone on during the season. We got off to a great start in Puerto Rico, had numerous guys play some great individual golf. I think the middle chunk of the spring was very much a product of learning how to play in some pretty tough weather and course conditions. There were a lot of rain delays and days where guys couldn't feel their hands, and some knee-high grass not too far off of fairways. And I think that and none of that's an excuse for the way some of those rounds went. It was just a learning experience that I think exposed some places that we could really grow. And I think the youth of our team showed at moments where we hadn't quite gone through some of that before. We needed to grow a little bit in our mindset. And I think this past weekend in Raleigh, we saw the product of a lot of that, where we had some of those challenging conditions. We faced it head on and did a really nice job. So we're going into Southern Conference with a little bit of momentum and excited to see where that takes us.
On to touch on that growth, where do you think you've seen the biggest growth or improvement in the team so far?
Yeah, I think one of the things that really stood out to me about this past weekend, so we were warming up on the range at Lonnie Pool in Raleigh, and it's pouring down rain. They hadn't exactly communicated at that point that we were going to delay the start of play. And there were a lot of days where when we were warming up and the conditions we knew were going to be tough, where there's, I won't call it like fear necessarily, but there was some moments where it's like, oh boy, like we're in for a long day today. Yeah. And for whatever reason, like that morning on the range at Lonnie Pool, everybody was just kind of laughing. Like, all right, we're ready for this. We've done this before. Like, if anybody's like gone through this, as much as we have, then, good luck to them, but we're ready for this now. And I felt like the guys like took that approach to the golf course, were really like patient, stayed in the moment, did a really good job of just kind of handling that well. And they came in with a great mindset and attitude. And I think that's one of the biggest places where we've grown.
And again, so NC State's tournament, you get to participate in that with a good field. The weekend or the tournament before that, you're out in California, hosted by Stanford, and the good one, another incredible field. And you also mentioned the Puerto Rico tournament. You've had some really great opportunities this year, especially in the spring slate. Just kind of, what do you think that means for these guys and for this program to be able to participate in events like that?
Yeah, I think you don't really get a sense of where you stand unless you go challenge yourself. Whether that be against the golf course or the competition that you get to play. And so the golf courses that we played this semester, Stanford was an incredible challenge. I thought it was very fair, but it was very tough. And you saw that in what the scores ended up being. You have some teams that are going to go compete for a national championship this year that are kind of hovering around par, and the winning score, I think, was 5 under par. So it's not, it's doable. You can play some great golf, but it's tough at the same time. And so I think between the challenging competition, and the golf courses being what they were, I think that those give, our guys a sense of, where they stand. And I think when you go play those events and you can visualize where you can make up some ground and say like, okay, I'm not that far off from where I think I could be. It's similar, to when Novak drops by practice and, we'll play with a couple of the guys and they can envision, okay, I can keep up with them here, but here's some places I need to grow. You don't get that unless you go challenge yourself in some tournaments like that. So, not to mention there's some pretty good destinations in there. So we're
Right.
grateful for the people that help us, get to those tournaments too.
And some of those tournaments, we've seen some really good performances. And I want to highlight some of the individual highlights from the spring, because there's a lot of depth to this team, and we can touch on that a little bit more in a minute. But we'll start Puerto Rico. Miller Carr, 2 sub-70 rounds out there. One of the best performances he's ever had. Just how special was that?
It was awesome to watch. He, I think, has just an incredible ceiling to his golf game. When he's, he would tell you himself, like, he's a momentum player. And so when he gets going, it can get really hot really quick. We've got a couple of guys kind of like that on our team, where when things are going well, they can ride a hot streak. He got a little bit of an unlucky break toward the end of his final round that kind of snowballed a little bit, but for him to have a chance to win a golf tournament that late into it, I thought was pretty special. We're trying to find something with him, toward the end of the season to where, hopefully, that guy can show up here at the end of the season too. But he's got so much upside, and I think everybody on the team sees that. I see it in him. Seen it since, I started coaching him. So, it was a really special way to kick off the spring.
And then kind of the near conclusion of the spring, mentioned the Stitch Intercollegiate, even with the weird conditions and kind of suspending midway through the second and all of that. Max Cranford goes out, puts together one of the best performances of his career, has a contention for the lead. Will Jones gets his best finish ever, finishing in sixth place. And Ben Jordan with an incredible final round to jump up into the top 10 and join Jones. So, just a total team effort there for a fifth place finish. But then those guys kind of highlighting that. Just what did you see from them?
Yeah, I think a lot of it starts before you ever get to the tournament. Max had been so close to being in the lineup a handful of times, through qualifying. And to his credit, he kept working his butt off to be ready for the opportunity when it came. And I told him, in advance, you're going to go to Raleigh. I don't want you to finish your time here at Wofford without a chance to go show what you've done in a tournament, because he's done such a great job preparing, and he took advantage of that opportunity. We're better for it because he stayed ready for his chance to go compete, and I'm glad he's riding a really good feeling in his game going into conference. Will has been very similar. He had a tough fall semester, but he's found something a little bit in his long game that I think is translated really well for the most part. He's been close at different moments. He had, one really good round to help us at the end of Puerto Rico. He'd been close in qualifying kind of between then. And even at Stanford, he had a rough middle round, but the two rounds, the first and third round, he played some really solid golf that just got away from him right at the end of the third round to kind of put together two really good rounds on a tough golf course. So for that to all come together, and he would tell you too, I think he really, didn't quite get everything that he could have at the Stitch. He missed a couple of putts that I'm sure he'd love to have back and give him a chance to win the tournament. So for a guy to put up his career best and still think that there's a lot left out there for him to go get is great. And then, you touched on Ben. He's been resilient all season. His good stuff is as good as anybody. And so I'm glad that, we worked on some stuff between Stanford and Raleigh to kind of help get him closer to that. And, he's just been a great leader for our team. So I'm proud of him for sticking with it and putting together a good finish there at the end.
And before we talk about the SoCon as a whole, just the depth, let's touch on that a little more. This team where you've got, feels like really any guy on the squad, you could put them in the lineup, and anybody can, on any given round, put together a performance that can highlight an event. Just how impactful do you think that is for this team, especially as you get ready for the SoCon tournament?
Well, I think it's a great thing at home, especially because you can't take a day off with this group. You've got to be ready to compete every single day, because there's going to be another guy that's ready to, take advantage of his opportunity to go. Like I mentioned before, Max hadn't played an event, to this point in the spring. He'd missed out on qualifying a handful of times, and he comes out and plays great. And that's awesome for me as a coach. Sometimes I wish we could play an 8-count 6, because I think we'd be in a great situation if that was the case. And it makes the lineup decisions really tough when, you've got that many guys playing solid golf at home. But I think we're better off for it. I think it's one of the things that makes us, unique, especially, with us not going, to a roster limit. We're going to have a little bit of a larger team, and that makes things really competitive. And I think it helps drive us. And hopefully that means we've got some momentum going into this weekend.
Absolutely, and iron sharpens iron, of course.
Yep.
And as you mentioned, kind of playing some of your best golf going into the SoCon, always huge. And SoCon tournament coming up in just a few days. Just kind of what's the mindset going in, and how would you preview that event?
Yeah, so the SoCon, I think, is one of the strongest mid-major golf conferences in the country. You look outside the Power Four, maybe the West Coast Conference is the only one that I would say definitively, has a stronger top to bottom golf conference than us. Furman and Chattanooga are both, in position to potentially get regional bids right now, and ETSU and UNCG are both top 100 teams in the country. So some really good competition to start out with there. We've played UNCG twice this semester, and we were right there with them going into the back nine at Stitch. And so I think for us to have a little bit of a younger team and have grown to the point where, we're hanging with, guys that are, considered to be one of the favorites for the tournament and be be right there with them with 9 holes to go in a big event on a tough golf course, just last week, I think is a good spot to find ourselves. So, I think we've got, guys that are excited to go play, guys that are riding some highs in their game. And I hope that, the golf course, I think, fits us very well also. So as always, it's going to be a really tough competition, but I think that we're ready for it.
Yeah, always exciting once the SoCon Championship rolls around. Really looking forward to that in Georgia. One more question before we get out of here. We've talked about Max a little bit. Let's talk about his time at Wofford, his career.
Yeah.
Just, of course, you've only gotten to coach him this one season, but you've gotten to know him. You kind of know what he means for this team. Just what has his impact been on this program and on Wofford?
Yeah, I think if you ask any guy on our team, who's the hardest working guy here, like Max is going to be one of the top answers that you're going to get from them. And I think he's been such a great leader by example. He's incredibly thoughtful. So if you get into a conversation with him about his game or about, just life in general, I feel like he always has like good thoughts about really any topic that you bring up with them. And he's so well respected by everybody on the team. He has the opportunity to go, play as a graduate student, and it was one of the easiest recommendations I've ever written for a guy to be able to go, continue his college career. And I'm proud that he's going to be a Wofford alum too. But he's meant the world, I think, to the guys, especially his classmates, Will and Ben. And, I'm excited to see what he does this weekend and see if he can put together something special down in Georgia.
Yeah, well, hopefully he'll be able to finish strong and go out on a good note. And best of luck to you guys this weekend. Really looking forward to following along. And
thanks.
Again, hopefully finishing on a good note. Coach, thanks you for your time as always. And in just a moment, we'll chat with Max Cranford, the lone 2025 graduate for this Wofford College team.
Black and gold. Bold. A victory story about to be told. Grit, toughness, and tenacity. A hub of hard work in Hub City. We're on these wins like dogs on a bone. In the zone. Our place, in your face, won't leave you alone. Strength, speed, fire, true. I'm sorry, do these things trouble you? We're Wofford College. We fly the W. Ingalls, proud partner of the Wofford Terriers.
Did you know Ingalls only sells USDA Choice and Prime cuts of meat? Maybe it's time to reward yourself. Our butchers cut all our meat fresh in the store every day. Grass-fed, organic, you name it. Not only that, we'll even cut it to order just the way you like it. And we grind meat fresh in the store multiple times a day. It's all in the bag. That's the best meat in town for the best folks in town. Ingalls, low prices, love the savings.
And we're joined now by Max Cranford. Max, as always, thanks for joining us.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
And to start, into the season here last weekend, great team performance in Raleigh, headed partially by yourself, getting a top finish. You're leading after a couple of rounds. Unfortunately, wasn't able to close that out. But to be up there in contention after 2 rounds, just what did that mean to you? What were you feeling that weekend?
Definitely. That first day was kind of a weird day, just in terms of conditions. The weather was really rainy early in the morning, specifically as we were warming up. So we had an initial delay, which backed our tee times up. So there was a lot of waiting around early in anticipation just to get out on the course. But once we were out there, I was kind of surprised that conditions really weren't bad. I mean, the course was obviously really wet, but it was sunny. It turned out to be a good day. But I was really proud of the way I played. I felt like I did a really good job of staying in the moment, taking it one hole at a time and not really getting too caught up in a result. Especially during the day, originally we were supposed to play 36 holes.
Right.
But with the weather and eventual darkness, it got cut to I only played 26 holes. So it was really, I was proud of myself and the team, the way we handled that, just staying in the moment, finishing the day out strong. And then into the second day, finishing those final 10 holes early, I was proud of the way I was able to stay consistent. I didn't even know that I was in the lead. I knew that I was going to be in contention just based on the way the course was playing, but yeah. I tried my best not to look at the leaderboard. I still thought I played really well that second day. Just down the stretch, couldn't really get anything to go in with the putter, unfortunately, but yeah, I was really, really proud of the way I played and the team's performance as well. Ben and Will, both juniors, had phenomenal events. They're both trending on the right track, and I think the team is as well heading into the Southern Conference Championship.
In that first round, that one full round you were able to play, even with the weather and all of the awkwardness and the unusualness that came with that, you were able to put together best round of your career collegiately.
Yes, sir.
What do you think was working the best for you in that round to get that score?
Definitely both my putter and really just my mental. Like I said, I was staying in the moment, which was really awesome, but I started my day off with a really solid birdie on the tough 15th hole. It's a tough tee shot with water on the left, and then it's a fairly easy layup, but that green is also tricky. So to make a good putt on the first hole was kind of calm me down a little bit, ease me into the round. And then the putter stayed hot really the whole day throughout all 26 holes. I made some really great putts outside of 15 feet, both for birdie and for par. So the putter really worked for me this week, which hopefully we can keep that going.
Yeah, and looking ahead, Southern Conference Championship coming up in less than a week now. You mentioned teams trending in the right direction, several golfers, yourself included, feeling like you're playing your best golf right now. Just kind of what's the excitement level like with that in mind, but also coming into that event knowing you've got a good chance?
Definitely. I think the Southern Conference Championship is the tournament that we work towards all year. Obviously, we have 10 regular season events, but I feel like the culmination of those events really leads you towards this final event. I think competition-wise, it's probably going to be the toughest event that we play all year, just in terms of the magnitude of what we're playing for. Every team wants to win the title so bad, including us. But I really do think that if we stay in the moment and truly believe in ourselves and one another, that we can put up a good fight and have a chance going into that final third round.
And this is a team that clearly has a lot of depth, run a lot of different lineups over the course of the year. Everybody seems to be having moments where they're playing their best golf, crack in. Again, yourself included. You mentioned Will, Ben. They've all had key moments in the spring season as well, where it feels like any given round someone can really show out and shine. Just how important do you think that depth will be going into this Ocon?
I think all year it's been a really vital part of our team. Every single day that we're out there on the course, we're competing, whether it's so-called the one guy versus the 11 guy. I feel like we're so close together in that it's always a competition. But along with that, along with the competitiveness, we all have so much respect for each other and that we want to see each other do well. So if you play poorly and a teammate does really well, it's very easy to be happy for them and not demean yourself. So I think that competition has been really vital in our team's success, and it'll play a big role into the future of Wofford golf to becoming the program that I know we can be.
And thinking before we talk about the future, let's talk about your time here, being the program's lone graduate this year. To start, just why Wofford in the first place?
Yeah. Well, being recruited by Van was a blessing. I really didn't have many opportunities to play collegiate golf, so having the opportunity to come to Wofford was a no-brainer. So when I got that opportunity, I took it instantly, and I'm extremely glad that I did. The connections, the relationships, the people I've met here, and the growth that I've seen personally and in my golf game has been tremendous, and it's unlike anything that I could have expected.
How would you assess your time here?
It's been awesome. I mean, short answer, it's just been awesome.
Yeah.
Extremely saddened to have to leave, but I'll remember these 3 years forever. The people that I've met, it's been extremely awesome and a blessing that I'll forever remember.
One last one for you. Might be a loaded question, might be a tough one. Best Wofford memory?
Ooh, best Wofford memory. I would have to say playing against Furman in a 1v1 Ryder Cup style match at Brights Creek Golf Club my sophomore year. That's the one event that I've gotten to play in where every single person on the team has gotten to play other than the home event. So it was a 12-on-12 matchup, strictly versus Furman. Played 18 holes, best ball, and then 18 holes alternate shot. My best memory of that day was watching Will Jones make He made a 35 to 40-foot putt on 18
Oh, wow.
to take it to a playoff to ultimately seal Wofford's victory over Furman. I'll never forget him making that putt and our reaction. That was a special day.
Yeah, always good to beat the purple guys down the road for
dang
sure.
Right, dang right.
So, Max, of course, thank you for your time, and thanks to all of you for watching. This has been Inside Wofford Golf, presented by the South Carolina Election Commission.